Hello everybody. I wanted to guide you through this project. Here we have a company that was started 3 years ago by these two entrepreneurs, and you can read about that. But they just got a big national contract, and so they want your help in projecting what next year might look like. And so we're going to create a budget so that we can see what next year might look like. And this budget will be based on assumptions that they've given us. And when we do the budget, they want us to use the budget here to figure out questions they have about the business. So they want to know, can they pay themselves a salary? They want to know if they can repay their student loans. And they also want to know if the business will generate enough cash to expand their product line. So we're going to look into that. And you can read this story, on your own. The file you get will have these URLs already created. We're creating them as we go here. But we're going to need all the parts of a master budget. So we're going to need a sales budget, a purchases budget, a cash receipts. So that is tracking when the cash comes in for the sales that we made. The cash doesn't come in at the same time as the sale for all of the transactions. And then a cash disbursements or cash payments budget, because we buy it one time and we might not pay for it immediately when we buy it. So what we buy is not the same as what we pay. We will eventually pay for all of it, but it's not synchronized. Then a cash budget, which will track the beginning cash, all the inflows, all the outflows, to see how is cash. Do we need to borrow? Are we okay? Because you want to know that well before the year starts. So cash budgets are very helpful for anticipating any cash flow troubles. And then we're going to have a budgeted income statement, which will show the profit in year 3, and then a budgeted balance sheet. So what are the assets, liabilities, and owner's equity at the end of the 3rd year? What will that look like? You're going to write a memo to the owners answering the question about, can they pay themselves a salary, can they repay their student loans, and can they expand into car seats and furniture. So this will be what you're going to learn from the budget that you create. And then there's a rubric here that tells you how the points are going to be distributed, with 70 of the 100 going to be creating a live model. And I'm going to walk you through that live model. We're not going to use Excel as a typewriter. You could just type the numbers in here and match my screen, but you'll get a 0. This is all or nothing points. You'll either get 70 because your live model works, or you get a 0. It's not possible to go through each one of these cells on each one of these tabs to figure out which one cell is not working. They all have to work, and I'll show you how we're going to test that so you can test it to be sure your model's working. Then the other 30 points are about communicating to the owners about what the budget tells you. All right, and so you can look at that and see about that. You have a sample or a starter memo here. You don't have to use it. You can create your own just to give you an idea of what it might look like. And so there's blank places in here. We, of course, don't tell you the advice that you're going to give, but the first sentence will be your main idea. Our analysis shows, and you write out what it shows. Can you repay the debt? Can you pay salaries? Can you invest in these assets? Can you do some of them? What can you not do? And so you would write this out however you want. And then you would indicate that profits and cash flow are not the same, and the reason for that is, and you write out the reason for them not being the same. And then the last is the caveats or the limitations. The forecast may not be exactly what turns out, right? It's a budget, so you would explain that here. Here's the assumptions. So the owners have given you these, and the assumptions are in yellow. And so you're going to link all of your computations back to the original assumptions. That's what makes it a live model, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And the reason is that in business, these assumptions can change. And it may change between now and when the budget year starts. And so you want to be able to update the budget at any one time. When I was in the field, we would create these, and the budgets might change every time the owner went to lunch with a vendor or went to lunch with a customer. All of a sudden, the 21 turned to 22, or turned to 20, or turned to some different price. The quantity changed because of what's happening in the national contract deal. The collection rules change, the payment rules, the cost for the flip-flop might go up, might go down because they're. But by linking back to them the way I'm going to show you, when any one of these yellow cells change, all the other tabs will automatically update. And so you can play with this and do different scenarios, which is very helpful to the owners. All right, so anything in the yellow could be changed. So let's look at the sales budget. So a sales budget will have the units sold, the sales price, and then a computation. Let's look at that. This one's already filled out for you, but let's just empty it out and build it. Sales units. I'm not going to type them in here. Sales units. I'm not going to type them in here because I'm going to link them to that cell. So I'm going to do either plus or equals, which tells Excel I'm going to create a formula. Then click on the tab where the data is and click on first quarter sales in units and hit enter. Now I have two choices. I can do it again for the second quarter. I can do equals, click on the assumptions tab, click on the sales units, and it does this dashing line to tell you what it thinks you want. And if that's what you want, you hit enter. If that's not what you want, keep clicking till you get to the thing you want. But that is what we want. We can do enter. The other thing I could have done is I can go in here and press my F4 button, and that will put a $ in front of the D and the 11. What that does is anchor it so that if I copy that cell, it stays on D11. I copy it over. D11 is the same. Now here I don't want that. I want it to float across. I want it to float to the next cell to the right, the next cell to the right, next cell to the right. But for the sales price, I don't necessarily want that. So I'm going to remove this. I'm just going to hit F4 again until the $ are gone. So we'll be using that trick from time to time. But here, I do want it to float. And here I can go up and use the editing auto sum. And it will say, is this what you want? And you can see the dashed lines again. It's asking you a question. Is this what you want? That is what I want to add up. So I just hit enter. If that's not what I want to add up, then I click over the part I do want to add up. The sales price per unit, I'm going to attach that as well over here. Since the sales price per unit travels all the way over, if this was empty, then I would have to refer to that one cell, but since it wasn't empty, you could copy across and it will populate out. The shading removed because I copied it, and that's okay. The shading's not particularly important. Okay, now the sales budget in dollars will be the units sold times the sales price per unit. If you do it on your calculator and you type this number in, you will no longer have a live model and you will get a 0. You want to continue to use formulas and point back to the original assumptions so that when the assumptions change, all of these numbers update. And I can go to this box in this lower right-hand corner and hover over it. See how the plus sign changes from 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional to 2-dimensional, and then hold down my mouse and drag across. And it will do that same formula in each of those cells. And I guess I was making that gray. Okay. Now, this is our sales budget. On later tabs, we're going to be pointing to the sales budget either in units or in dollars, depending on what we need. We will not be typing these numbers in anywhere. Now let me show you what a live model means. Let's go back over here and say that it turns out that we can actually increase the sales price to 22. Look at updated. See? And so everything that's based on sales price will update because we're pointing back to the original assumptions. I can change the units and my sales will update. So if I change this to 32,000 because something that the owners learned, now the 32,000 is there, the 22 is there, and then this calculation has changed. So I will give you some check figures and you will be able to make sure. Of course, you're going to see the original solution because I'm going to walk you through it here, but I'll give you some check figures changing some of these assumptions so you can make sure that you have a live model. All right, so that's the first start, and then we'll come back in the next video and we'll do the purchase budget.